Little Nightmares is an indie horror game from Swedish developers Tarsier Studios, and it has a 2.5D platforming style very similar to games like Inside. While it isn't quite as polished or effective as Inside, it certainly does a great job of creating a wonderfully disturbing world to explore. In Little Nightmares, you play as Six, a tiny girl dressed in a yellow raincoat with nothing but a lighter to keep her company. You awake in a dark room on board a mysterious underwater vessel called the Maw. You don't know why you're there or what your purpose is, but you know you need to get going. It's not safe to stay. Now, as I said before, Little Nightmares plays a lot like Playdead's Inside. Both are 2.5D platformers with an emphasis on environmental storytelling and absolutely no dialogue. The narrative in Little Nightmares is vague, but the environmental storytelling works very well in giving the player a general idea of what is happening. I won't go into any details because the game only lasts 3 to 5 hours and it's worth playing without knowing anything. However, I will say that the ending of Little Nightmares is rather ambiguous, but I think it works. In my review of Inside, I said that Inside is one of, if not the best, examples of ambiguity done right. And I can say the same for Little Nightmares. It isn't quite at the level that Inside was, but I think it does a great job nonetheless. Little Nightmares' main gameplay features are puzzle solving, stealth sections, and tense cat and mouse chases. And for the most part, all these not only work very well, but are fun as hell to complete. While the puzzles aren't that difficult and some had a bit too much trial and error, they're still very fun and unique and offer a great bit of environmental storytelling. The stealth sections were also very fun and tense, and the chase sequences offered some great heart-pounding thrills. The only problem with this is the controls. In fact, this is the biggest problem in the whole game, I feel. There are some times where it just feels unresponsive and imprecise. For me, most of this came in the beginning when I was still learning, but I still encountered a few problems later on. Now, it's far from bad, and it works well for the most part, but this is where the game starts to feel just a little less polished than others. There were a few times where I had to make a quick climb and Six didn't quite grab where I wanted her to, which resulted in a few annoying deaths. And when I died, I found that the loading screens felt a bit too long and some of the checkpoints felt a bit too harsh. Again, none of this is that bad, but it certainly makes the game feel rough around the edges. While the gameplay may feel a bit rough, the artistic design is far from it. The world is gorgeously grotesque and the atmosphere is terrific. The creepy art style feels like something straight out of The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I loved it. The sound design is also fantastic, with every little creak, crack, and moan giving you a real sense of unease throughout the entire game. Now, as far as music, the developers chose to use more ambient sounds than just straight music, but the soundtrack is still great in the moments where it flares up. The pulsating drums during the chase sequences and the chilling, childlike moans during slower sections made the atmosphere feel even more tense, and this game should really be played at night because it is definitely creepy as hell. The game goes for an overall sense of fear and tension instead of outright scares, which is very effective. That being said, there was definitely a moment or two that was just downright terrifying. And there weren't any cheap jump scares either, which shows that the game creates a real sense of fear and doesn't rely on over-the-top jump scares to make it creepy. As I mentioned earlier, the only real problem here is the lack of polish in the gameplay. Other than that, I didn't really have any issues with it. I mean, I didn't experience any stuttering or frame drops, it ran great, and it looked great, even on my Xbox One. Now, some may be a bit upset with its short length or vague narrative, but neither of those were a problem for me. Overall, the grotesque world and terrific atmosphere make Little Nightmares a very memorable experience, even if it is a short one. The minor gameplay flaws make it feel a bit rough around the edges, but it's still a great horror experience worthy of your time and money, especially if you're a fan of games like Inside. If you want to read the full review or check out any of my other reviews, head over to chrisriveramedia.com/IDM100. It's on screen and down below in the description.